Today we're going to be taking a look at the OFRF Gear RTA. This product was sent to me by OFRF for the purpose of this review. Let's go ahead, open up the box, and see what it comes with. Inside your package you are going to get the Gear RTA, a spare smoked polycarbonate tank section, 2 510 drip tips. You're also going to get cotton, 2 coils, and a baggie with spare O-rings, spare screws, and a spare 510 pin, a flathead screwdriver, and your OFRF Gear RTA user manual. Here's the Gear RTA. It's primarily made of stainless steel 304. Here with the glass straight tank section, you will have a 2.3 ml capacity. Using the smoked polycarbonate tank section, that's going to bump your tank capacity up to 3.5 milliliters. Taking a look at the top, you can see your 510 drip tip opening there, and it has this gear cutout on the top cap. If we go ahead and unscrew that, it'll reveal these 2 very large fill ports on either side. And as you can see there, the threading on this is quite short. It's only about about 2.5 turns to fully close this top cap. It has 2 Cylon style slotted airflow here on either side, and it is on a stopper. Whatever you adjust on one side, it will adjust on the other. Flipping it over to look at the bottom, you have the gold plated 510 pin here. You see the Gear OFRF, the branding on the bottom. Let's go ahead and remove that build deck. So one thing I do want to note is that this airflow ring can come off, and as you can see, as it's coming off, it grabbed my O-ring. So just be very careful when you're taking the bottom build deck off to make sure that you don't slip that airflow ring off. Otherwise, what you will find is that the airflow ring will come off and you're not actually unscrewing your base. So let's go ahead and put that O-ring back on. And then you have to find the little notches on the inside of the ring there, and go ahead and line those back up and slip our airflow ring back on. So let's go ahead and lock. Now it's locked in. So first getting this, it was screwed on really tightly, and what I found is I kept popping my airflow ring off. So the first time you get it, you might just go ahead and slide the airflow ring off first and go ahead and break that seal. Since everything on the inside is dry, there's no machine oil or anything, those O-rings can tighten up around there and make it hard to break loose for the first time. And since this airflow control ring is removable, it simply slides down. What I found is that the notches on the inside of the airflow control ring are not that deeply engraved, so it actually will push past the notches and pop down. And that's just my experience with this RTA so far. So removing the bottom base from the tank, here you can see the inside of the chamber. It is very short and conical on the inside there. Here is your build deck. So the way this works is you have 4 connections, so you have 4 terminals. This is a single coil RTA, and the leads will be facing in opposite directions on the coil. It is compatible with both clockwise wrapped coils and counterclockwise wrapped coils. So you have your positive terminal block here sitting inside this peak insulator, and then over here you have your negative terminals. So right there in the center you have your airflow. It's going to come up from underneath and hit your coils. On either side of that airflow tube you're going to have your wicking slots, and those drop down, and as you can see there is space down there at the bottom of the deck. So this is kind of a little bit like a floating deck in that there is room all the way around the deck underneath for your e-liquid to flow and saturate your cotton. So what you'll be doing is tucking your cotton down in either one of those chambers. Here you see these very large cutouts on the top of the flathead screws, which I like when they do a nice deep and very large cutout, because that means you're going to be able to get in there and get a really good bite on the tip of your flathead screwdriver in there. It's just always going to have a really good bite. And if you have a small flathead and you find that you're slipping, you might want to use a larger size flathead, and these screws can definitely accommodate that. So we'll go ahead and just loosen all of the post screws and get ready to put a build in it. So unscrewing the post here, you can see there is a little short lip on the outside of the deck, and that's going to help keep your leads from slipping off when you put your coil in, because most likely your coil is going to be too wide to fit both leads on the inner side, so you're going to fit them on that outside. Not a lot of room. This is a single coil RTA, and it doesn't look like a lot of space, but we're going to go ahead and use the coils included and put a build in here. Okay, so here's the coils I'm going to be using according to OFRF. These are frame staple Claptons. Each coil should ohm out to a 0.33, and there's the specs. It's going to be nichrome 80, and they even do a recommended power range on there. So one thing I wish that they would have done, since this RTA is designed to have coils placed in with leads facing opposite of each other, I wish they would have went ahead and wrapped these that way. It wouldn't have been too hard for them to have their machine go ahead and wrap it with the lead facing the other way out, since they are putting coils with this one. But anyway, that's minor details. I'm just going to go ahead and put this on my coiling tool, and then I'll go ahead and add half a wrap so that my leads are facing the opposite direction. So there we go. I just went ahead, added half a wrap there, and that way my leads are facing opposite direction. Now you can place this coil one of two ways, no matter which way it's wrapped. You can choose to do it with the top of the legs coming over the top, or you can choose to place the coil in with the legs coming from underneath. I'm going to go ahead and place them with the legs coming from underneath. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sit my little coil tool down there, and I'm going to grab these little legs and push them underneath that screw, and they should sit right down in there. So that one popped in, no problem. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. And that one popped in, no problem as well. And now I'm going to go ahead and tighten those screws. Actually going to loosen this one a little bit more and see if I can get that coil down in there a little bit. Get my lead tucked in as close as I can in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and hold that lead with my finger and tighten it down. Now I'm going to do that on the opposite side. Again, I'm going to pull the lead towards the post of the screw, holding it tight, and tighten it down. So one thing that I did notice when I tightened these down, it kind of pushed the wire backwards and made my two outer loops bigger than the inner loops, if you can see that there. See how each outer loop is pushed back, and it's actually pushing up against the post screw on the other side. So I'm going to loosen these, and I'm going to use my pliers to pull that wire back taut. Okay, so I've got both my leads nice and tight, and I've got the coil positioned where I want it. What I ended up having to do is just take some needle nose pliers and pull out on that lead and pull it nice and taut after I tightened it down just snug, enough to where the wire could still move but not pop out. And the reason why I needed to do that is as I'm turning, the screw was pushing the wire and feeding it towards the center, causing that bulge on both sides of the loops there. So now I have my coil nice fixed. Everything's nice and taut, nothing's moving around. So now I can go ahead and slide my little tool out and clip my leads. So they do leave you a little bit of space from the threading, so that if you don't get it quite flush, that you're able to leave a little bit of wire on there without it touching the barrel of the RTA. I still do recommend to make sure that you try your best to get cut as flush as possible. So with flush cutters, they are completely flat on one side and they are also angled, which allows you to get in there and get flat right up against the deck. We'll go ahead and give a snip on that side, and that got it pretty flush there. There's just a little bit sticking out. And we'll go ahead and do the same on the other side. There we go. So now we got both leads cut flush. There's how my coil is sitting. Not quite even on the inside there. The coil is tilting just a little bit. So on one side you can see there's a little more space than on the other side. But I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go ahead, put this on a mod, pulse the coils, and see how it comes out. Okay, so prior to pulsing, the coil is ohming out at a 0.27, which is a bit lower than the 0.33 that was specified. And I did also add half a wrap to it. So let's see if maybe that resistance comes up after pulsing it. Okay, so we've got our coil glowing nice and evenly now. We can go ahead, let that cool down, and we'll wick it up. And since I'm using their coils included, I am going to go ahead and use the wicks that they included as well. So the wicks that they included do fit really nice and tightly in this coil. I'm really happy with the way it fits. It's nice and tight. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and measure my cotton. And how I'm going to measure my cotton is I want some of my cotton to be down in that channel. I don't want to fill it and stuff it full because I don't want to choke the RTA off and cause dry hits. So I'm going to go ahead and clip it right there at that O-ring that I'm looking at here. I'm going to go ahead and cut it there. And do the same thing on the other side. And then I'm going to thin out these ends. Because this cotton fits so tightly in that coil, there is quite a bit of cotton in them ends, and I don't want it to be too stuffed. So I'm just going to lightly thin out that cotton. So I'm just ever so lightly just fluffing out those ends, making sure to get all of the fibers going in the same direction. As you can see, it's not a lot, just a little bit of thinning and fluffing. And now I'm going to go ahead and pinch the tail and place it down into that hole and just lightly tuck it in there. So my cotton's not going all the way to the bottom of the deck. It's just sitting nicely into the wicking port there. And it just ever so slightly drops below there. Again, grab the tail and just tuck it nice and lightly into the hole. And this is bottom airflow, so you definitely want to make sure you have enough cotton in there to where it fills up the whole opening. It's not jam-packed in there, but it is filling up the whole opening. Otherwise, you will get leaking. This is one of the delicate things about an RTA, especially a bottom airflow RTA. The wicking can make or break it. The wicking can be the difference between a dry hit and flooding and leaking. So I think I did a pretty good wicking job. Let's go ahead, I'll juice it up. We'll fill up the tank. So when you're priming your coil with e-liquid, one thing to make sure of is that the airflow is directly underneath that coil. So you don't want to put a big glob of e-liquid right there on the center, as it will drip down below into the airflow and cause leaking. So what you can do is put nice big globs on the either side of that cotton, and then just a little strip of e-liquid on the center, and then just give it a light pulse of the button. Let it soak in, because that e-liquid on the outsides is going to travel inward to the center of your coil. You can go ahead and do that again. Give it a nice little pulse. And now that you've got it started, you can go ahead, place your tank on top and fill the tank. So let's go ahead and do that. It's got the tank tightened down. And then we can go ahead and open the fill ports. Just go ahead and squeeze the heck out of the bottle. Get that filled all the way up. And there we go. Now we got to pick a drip tip. So I'm going to go with the slightly wider bore drip tip. Has a very unique shape to it. It's conical here at the top, and then it slants inward at the bottom. Quite interesting how they went ahead and mirrored that angle on the top. They mirrored it on the bottom. Interesting. Let's go ahead and put, ooh. So the 510 drip tip there is quite tight to fit in. Those O-rings make it really tight. So that's how it looks with the drip tip on it. And that is the Gear RTA by OFRF. Let's go back up top, have a vape on it, and I'll give you my thoughts and opinions. Okay, and that was an up-close look at the Gear RTA by OFRF. So what are my thoughts? Well, let's get into the pros first. So the pros on this device, of course, are going to be fit and finish. Everything is machined really well. All of the threads on here are done really well. No burrs or anything like that. Everything came together really nicely. The next pro is going to be, of course, that this is easy to build and easy to wick. Being that it's a single coil RTA, it's really not hard at all to build this device, and I really like that they included coils with it. And of course, I've been using the coils that they sent with it, and they perform really well, so I'm really happy with that. And like I said, it's pretty easy to wick, it's pretty straightforward, so it's a really simple RTA to use. Next pro on this is going to be the flavor. The flavor on this little bitty RTA is amazing. I really have been enjoying the flavor and have been using the heck out of the Gear RTA just because it performs so well. I was a big fan of the Serpent Mini, which when you compare it in size, it's very similar in size, and they both are single coil RTAs. I must say, I love the Gear RTA, and I actually prefer it over my Serpent Mini, which is hard to do. The airflow on this is also slightly reminiscent of the Serpent Mini as well. It has a nice restricted direct lung airflow, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you listen to it wide open. So there is a wide open direct lung airflow. It's really nice and smooth. It has that little bit of restriction to it. And I'll go ahead and adjust it here to halfway open for you. Now, adjusting the airflow control ring is a little difficult as well, just because there isn't nothing to grip on there. So let's go ahead and show you what it sounds like halfway open. Again, really flavorful, lots of vapor production, and you get that nice restrictive direct lung hit. Now, it does share a con that I had for that device as well. So let's talk about the cons. So the cons that I have for the Gear RTA are small cons. They're not any cons that I would say would make me not go out and buy this RTA. The first con is going to be that the airflow control ring slips off quite easily. It does have a little notch to lock it in place so is that when you're spinning it, it doesn't free spin. But what I found is that that notch is not that deeply cut, and when I'm trying to remove the base, my airflow control ring slips on me, and it slips past that notch and ends up coming off, and it made it really difficult for me, as you could see in the down low, to get the base off. And now once I did get the base off and I went ahead and built it and put some e-liquid through it and everything was lubed up, that really wasn't as big of an issue anymore. But there is still one issue with this device, and I would equate it to the fact that its size as well as the smoothness of the machining. So obviously on the top and the bottom, there is no knurling or any indents or notches cut into either the top cap or the bottom cap. Now with the top cap has never frozen on me. It always comes off every time. But the bottom, the base, trying to get that base off has been a difficulty. When I go to re-wick or rebuild the device and I have to take the base off, what I find is if I grab it from the top and the bottom and I try to turn, my fill cap always unscrews before the base does. So then I have to tighten it back down and try again. And what I would say is for that is because of the small size of this device and the fact that there's no knurling or anything on that base on the airflow control ring, it does make it a bit difficult, and that airflow control ring kind of contributes to that because the airflow control ring isn't completely locked onto the base. It actually comes off. And when you deal with small devices like this with an airflow control ring like that, sometimes it can be hard to get the base off. So that's my thoughts on the OFRF Gear RTA. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, click that subscribe button, and if you are, don't forget to hit the little bell icon so you get notified the next time I upload a video. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, bye bye.